Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy healthy start on this nice macro Sunday morning over here as we get prepared for realistically the next about 2 to 4 weeks to come, as there are a couple of major signals, one of which we've been talking about a lot on this channel, which has actually got a new update as of last night, and another one that I haven't mentioned in a while. I think it's been a month since we saw the last one. That was actually in July before the last 30% move to the upside. Well, that one is also about to fire off another major signal as well. So both these two confluent with each other are going to essentially drive the biases for the next probably 2 to 4 weeks. So without further ado, I should probably subtly shill my Instagram. As always, I've been posting a lot of Bitcoin and trading related content there. There is a link in the description below if you happen to give a fuck. And then also, Bybit's got 0% on their maker fees for spot trading. So if you're interested in that, there is a link as well in the description below. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right on into it and let's start it off right on over here. Let's start it off with the new information actually, because the 2-day time frame is something that we haven't referenced here since the last signal, which was back on over in middle of July before this run from about 19,000 bucks all the way up to our current high of the summer of about 25,000 bucks. So in this case, what are we essentially looking at? Well, the signal is this. The signal is the 2-day BBWP, which represents volatility, aka the dispersion of returns, getting down to extreme lows and then expanding from these areas. Now, extreme lows I do define as anything below about 10 percentile, and we've seen many iterations in the past 5 years now, of which all these iterations combined has led to an average move of about 34.83% over the course of just under 19 days. And so what that puts us like, about 2.5 weeks basically, or about 2.5 weeks. The stochastic momentum oscillator has gone the correct direction on the volatility expansion for about 84.5% of the time. And if we were to look at this from a first standard deviation perspective, which is where we essentially expect about 68% of the results to fall between, that would give us a range in terms of numbers between about 25.5% all the way up to just under 44% on the upper end. So looking at this right now, we can obviously see that the 2-day BBWP is into the extreme low territory over here. And in this case, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to expand like today. We certainly have seen some rather fast expansions from these extreme lows that we saw on actually the last signal. Actually the last signal was August. I apologize. There was another signal before that on July. So the August signal was downside. The July signal was upside, if you happen to give a fuck. These ones actually kind of expanded rather quickly, but you can certainly get stuff like this as well, where it hangs at the lows and well, makes you wait essentially before the actual volatility expansion. So ultimately, this is a signal of warning in preparation, but not necessarily a signal that is relevant for today. But here is the thing, because the stochastic momentum oscillator has been very accurate in getting the volatility expansion direction, again, about 84.5% of the time, it should be known where these pivots are. For right now, the stochastic oscillator is pointed to the upside, and it will be remaining with upside pressure as long as Bitcoin's closing on this next period above 19,900, which is not that far away from current price action. so do keep that in mind. And in fact, if it were to turn back down from these particular regions, it would be holding within the bearish control zone. So that would be kind of expected over the next maybe 2, at most 3 closures is where I'd really start to be looking for volatility expansion to happen. And then if you do see that turn down, well, that's going to be a downside signal. If it remains with this upside posturing and continues to close above this pivot over here, then, well, obviously upside would be the more probabilistic call in this case. So for right now, as the signal is dormant, it is not active, it is not actually activated. We're waiting for the 2-day BBWP to expand, similar to what you saw back on over here, and many other times. Well, in that case, we want to see the BBWP have a positive slope and also above the moving average, with the moving average also having a positive slope. That would be the full-on confirmed criteria. So once we see that, then we measure up the stochastic oscillator direction, which probably gets confirmation in the next 2 to 6 days, I would suspect. And from there, we can actually come up with some probabilistic ranges to be looking for. For right now, while it is pointed to the upside, it would be relevant to be looking at what would the first standard deviation range incorporate if we were to see, well, a move to the upside. And then I'll kind of tell you why I think maybe a little more likely to expand to the downside in this case. But for right now, that is just how these statistics are kind of lining up. So taking it from the current low, 25.5% to the upside would put Bitcoin at about 24,500 bucks. If it were to go towards the upper end of the first standard deviation, which is about 44%, that would put Bitcoin just around like 28 to 29,000 bucks, which is quite the move. Again, looking for that move to occur about 2.5 weeks after confirmation of the move beginning. Now, if it were to come to the downside, let's just get ready over here, close your eyes, fucking perm boolas, and let's just do it. Let's just do it. So in this case, 25.5% to the downside from our current regions would put Bitcoin at about 15,000 bucks. 44% puts Bitcoin significantly lower than that, more around about 12,000 bucks, which I do think is rather interesting, seeing as we're going to combine that with the 5-day chart. So the 5-day chart is another major one that we've been looking at for a while now. This one is just getting another closure as of last night. Let me see. This is the wrong chart. Here we go. Here's the right chart. It's the same setup on the same signal, just different time frame. And being that it is a 5-day time frame, that is, well, much more powerful than the 2-day time frame. So we do expect this one to, basically have bigger results, and it does. And the thing is that you're going to very likely notice that the signals on this time frame very similar to the signals on the 2-day time frame. So a lot of confluence, a lot of carryover from here. Anyways, I probably don't need to re-explain this again with BBWP getting to extreme lows, then expanding from these. But what is interesting about this one is that over the last 4 to 5 years, the stochastic oscillator has been actually perfect thus far. And again, I do not expect it to always be perfect. In fact, it certainly will not be over a long enough time period. But the 5-day stochastic oscillator has been perfect in getting the volatility expansion direction. So in this case, the numbers are just different here. The average move about 42.35%, the average days at about just under 37 days, and the first standard deviation represents the range between about 35.25% all the way up to 49.5%. But here's the thing. The 5-day signal, unlike the 2-day signal, has already fired off. This one actually fired off back and over here on the highs in August, where the 2-day signal actually got a signal as well. A lot of the times you will see them confluent with each other, actually. But this one's still active, actually, as the 5-day stochastic oscillator is still pointed to the downside. So that was the key consideration coming into this next 5-day period. Again, it closed just last night, so this one's completely fresh. And here's the thing. As long as Bitcoin is closing below this stochastic momentum pivot right here, this signal essentially is still alive. So while it has done a good portion of what we would expect from that signature to the downside already, about 27%, again, keeping in mind that the lower end of the first standard deviation would show about 35.25%. So, within the ballpark, but still a little bit further out there. Is it relevant to be expecting that this one could have more to the downside? Well, yes, for a couple of reasons. Well, first and foremost, what we just explained over here, as long as this condition is met, that signal is still valid as far as I'm concerned. So until Bitcoin actually closed above 20,300, well, which is not that far away from current price, actually, to be fair, I would look at this as still, something to be aware of. And of course, we do see that the 5-day BBWP is really just starting to get expanded over here. It's not like it's even above 50 percentile right now. So I do think that it'd be relevant to say that this one probably hasn't seen its full move just yet. And then also, if we look at the average days taken from the signal given, about 37 days, let's say. Well, from our current signal given to where we're at right now is 35 days actually. So this represents a 35-day period. So between these next like 5 to 10 days is where we would statistically can't fucking speak, statistically be looking for the totality of this move. So that basically puts us around the end of this month. And if the 2-day time frame gets going as well, that kind of put us within the same sort of, basically like 10 to maybe 15-day period. Again, keeping in mind that these are averages, so we do expect variance around them. But of course, if we were to look at the first standard deviation as relevant and apply that from the current signal given, well, 35% brings you all the way down to where? Oh, that's 15,000 bucks. That sounds fucking familiar on a current, on a continuation of the breakdown. 49.5% to the downside would bring Bitcoin all the way to like 12,000, as you can see. So again, same sort of numbers coming up here. So I do like the confluence between these. Of course, could it be that Bitcoin flips back around, resets the volatility signal over here, which would look something like this. So if you do see something like this, then this would be pretty fucking bullish. But if it were to come back down, reset around extreme lows, and then expand, and then we saw the 5-day stochastic oscillator point to the upside, this is a lot of ifs, by the way, like a lot of fucking ifs. Then I suppose we could apply that to the upside as well. And 35% would put Bitcoin 26,500 bucks. 50% basically puts Bitcoin at about 29. So a lot of very similar numbers right here, obviously, of which, as of right now, the 5-day signal, again, still valid. So, well, I do still look at this as more likely to break down over time. This is nothing to do with the short-term timeframes, however. Absolutely fucking nothing to do with the short-term timeframes. As we did say on yesterday's video, short-term timeframes, bit of sideways over the weekend, and then probably tries for a bounce to open up this next week. So nothing's really changed there. And hey, maybe you do have a bit of a higher low going on right here if you want some Bula hopium. Certainly, I mean, it's possible. I mean, this would be kind of a technical pullback to the 786 and then pop back up. Not really confirmed, in my opinion, as long as you're especially below about 21,000 bucks. But hey, if Bitcoin were to pop back above there, 2-day signal is going to continue with upside momentum. 5-day signal will probably flip back around as well. And then there you go. You're going to have probably a pretty fucking bullish October. So definitely possible. But yes, that's basically what I wanted to be speaking on today. Again, not really anything to do with the lower term timeframes. Kind of looking at the same thing as yesterday in the sense that CME suggesting a bounce to open up this week. And then we'll come back to it after that because there's a big catalyst on Wednesday, probably FOMC day, of which I'm going to be on a plane. So I won't even fucking be here, which has typically been bullish in the past, actually. Funnily enough, for the OGs of this channel, you might remember that. Anyways, I think that's a good place to leave off on this video. So yeah, is there anything else? No, I think we got everything. Higher term timeframes, again, once again taking over. I also should denote that the weekly stochastic momentum is once again pointed to the downside on CME as long as Bitcoin's below 20,600. And for spot price action will also turn down upon today's daily closure and weekly closure at 7 p.m. Eastern time with any sort of a closure below 20,900 or so. So, just a few more things to be aware of right here. Again, getting into some kind of critical regions, but ultimately, I suspect that we're really going to see the move populated by FOMC day, and then you're going to get follow through for the next couple of weeks, and that kind of sets the direction for coming into October. All right, sweet. That's a good place to leave it off. Want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.